My third day started with a trip on the M4, Budapest's newest underground railway, which opened in 2014. My first visit was to the central market hall beside the Danube. The building is so large it is also known as the Great Market Hall. At one time there was a canal that ran through the centre for the delivery of goods. The whole of the ground floor is given over to all kinds of provisions merchants who obviously take great pride in their displays. The upper level gallery has stalls offering Hungarian arts and crafts and tourist souvenirs. I then chose another of Budapest's transport options, taking the scenic tram that runs along the Pest embankment of the Danube from the market to the Parliament building. We first passed under Elizabeth Bridge. The tram tracks run higher than the riverside roadway, so offer views of the moored boats and of the buildings on the Buda side of the river, including the palace on Castle Hill. The tram turns inland from the river as it approaches the Parliament. The planning for a Parliament building started in 1867, but the actual construction did not begin until 1885 and was not completed until 1920. The building is symmetrical, as the riverside view illustrates, and as this plan confirms. The visitor centre has scale models on display, including an interesting cutaway version. My tram had switched tracks at its terminus and was now on its way back to the city centre. Although the main facade faces the river, the original main doorway, called the Lion Entrance, is on the east side, facing away from the river, but in practice a side entrance is now used. There were 2 sentries on duty, normally standing still, and I felt sorry for them in full uniform in the boiling sun. Occasionally they were allowed to stretch their legs for a couple of laps round the flagpole bearing the national flag. It was now time for me to head inside to join my pre-booked tour. The Great Ornamental Staircase is a really impressive sight, with its ceiling frescoes enhanced by the gilding with some of the 40 kilograms of gold used in decorating the building. Under the central dome was a 16-sided hall. This was home to the well-guarded Holy Crown of Hungary, an image of which appears as the top part of Hungary's coat of arms. As we made our way through to the upper house chamber, even the corridors were grand affairs, with marble walls, arched ceilings, and ever more gilding. With the Parliament now being unicameral, this chamber is just used for conferences, meetings, and visitor tours. Originally, it could seat 453 members. The far wall is decorated with the coats of arms of Hungary's royal families. It was now time to head back outside to the Alaskuthu Square, where there was a monument to the former governor-president, and also 2 equestrian statues to Francis Rakosi and Count Andrassy respectively. The elevated position of the square provided views across the river to the castle district and to Matthias Church. Budapest is not short of transport options, but this tourist group have chosen electric segways to get from one point of interest to another. My next port of call was to be to Margaret Island, which lies in the middle of the Danube just upriver from the Parliament. It covers 227 acres and is described as the green gem of Budapest. It is mostly a pleasant public park, but also hosts a multitude of leisure facilities from swimming pool complexes to an athletic stadium. There are medieval ruins to explore and a water lookout tower to climb for good views over the treetops to the Buda Hills. Margit Island has no fewer than 19 swimming pools, 11 at the Palatinus Beach Leisure Facility and another 8 at the National Aquatics Complex. Cars are not allowed on the island, but there are other transport options. The little Japanese garden was situated towards the north end of the island. It had only recently been redesigned and replanted. The sound of cascading water had a pleasant cooling effect on a warm day. The surrounding beds were a riot of colour. Nearby was a bandstand-like feature called the Music Well. An area near the centre of the island has been planted out as a rose garden. My visit to the island ended with watching the musical fountain at the south end. It has set programmes of synchronised music running through the day and into the evening. Some of the music is classical, and at other times it is pop. It was then time to sample another variation on Budapest's many forms of public transport. This was in the timetables as Route 60 and was in fact a cog railway built in 1874 to climb the 2.5 miles up to into the Buda Hills. Once there, there was yet another mode of transport lined up from Szentendrei station. This was a narrow gauge railway with open carriages hauled by a diesel locomotive. What was special about it was that it was manned almost entirely by children aged 10 to 14. The only adults were the engine drivers. Children were in the ticket office and on board checked tickets and sold souvenirs. Trackside they waved flags, blew whistles, exchanged salutes and, when necessary, changed points. For the children it was a reward for having performed well at school, and there is real competition for the places. The station master role often involved one experienced person and one trainee. The track wound its way through the forest with occasional stops. It runs for 7 miles and operates at the stately speed of 12 miles per hour. This is a favourite walking area for the residents of Budapest, and in summer it is cooler than the city, partly because of its altitude and partly because of the shade provided by the trees. From time to time, the route of a walking trail would cut across the line. It is a single-track system, which meant that the up and down trains had to synchronise their passing at a midpoint station. My trip was during the week, and the scene would have been very much busier at a weekend. As we neared the highest point on the line, there was a good view back to the city, although unfortunately through a bit of a heat haze. On leaving the Children's Railway, my route back to the city was by conventional tram and M3 metro. Back at my hotel for the last time, I had a look at some of its decor. The building had originally been a spa, and although largely reconstructed, they had managed to retain some of the features and feel of the original building. The weather had been kind to me, allowing me to pack a lot into my short visit, and nothing in Budapest had disappointed.